What a wonderful world it is for a newborn. I had such joy last week as I got to spend time with baby Kale on the first week of his life. And as I'm getting ready to talk about all the things this chapter entails, it just makes me think about him. All the different reflexes, and newborns are born with all of these, and then they eventually disappear except for the blinking. We all, if we have something come to our face, we will automatically blink. But some of the reflexes that I enjoyed experiencing with Kale last week was the babinski, and that's when you touch the bottom of their foot, how the toes will fan out. The moro is a startle reflex. If he heard something loud, he would throw his arms back. The palmer, this one you just have to try. Take your finger and put it into the palm of a newborn's hand, and they automatically will grasp your hand. I wouldn't try this because you don't want the baby to be dropped, but it's so tight that you could do one in each hand, a finger in each hand, and they grasp it, and you can lift them up by their arms. The grasping reflex is that strong. The rooting reflex, since he's a breastfeeding baby, if I would hold him down, I'm in the prone position, his just touching his little cheek, he would turn to me toward my breast as if he was going to get nourishment. So that's a survival instinct for newborns. Stepping, if I held him up and his feet touched like the bed or my lap, then he automatically would do little stepping motions. And then, of course, the last is sucking, and his mother is breastfeeding, but she wants him to learn to drink out of a bottle as well. My children, either one, would take a bottle because they just were so attached to the breast, so it made it really hard to leave them. So she wants him to be able to drink out of a bottle as well as breastfeed, so I got to feed him breast milk that she had pumped. And if he would get lazy on the job, then all I had to do was start to pull out the nipple from the bottle, and he would start sucking again. So this is part of the sucking reflex. So you'll learn about those reflexes this week in this chapter, and you'll learn how much babies sleep. They basically sleep and eat. I know within the next month he is going to grow so fast because at this stage they just change so quickly. We now are 7 hours away, and I hate that because I'm going to miss a lot, but we really do make an effort to try to go and be with our grandsons about once a month, so we'll have to watch him grow month by month. This week you're also going to learn about the different cries, and I mentioned sleeping, but babies have a sleep cycle. Unfortunately, you're going to learn about SIDS, the sudden infant death syndrome. What a tragedy this is, and we really don't know what causes it. Research says that it may be as these reflexes that I just was describing lessen, then the baby may not be able to keep up with its breathing when it becomes difficult, and that might cause it. About 2 out of 1,000 babies die in their sleep, and parents feel like it's something they did, and it's not. It just is unfortunately something that happens. We do know there are some babies that are at greater risk. Those who were born prematurely, have low birth weight, parents who smoke. So I guess that's one thing that parents could do differently. Don't smoke. Don't have your child around smoke. In 1992, they figured out if we put our babies back to sleep, in other words, putting them on their back when you put them to sleep instead of on their stomachs, then they don't have as much problem breathing. They don't run the risk of their mouth being down in the bed. Also, in today's cribs, there's nothing in the crib. We don't even really have bumper pads like they had when I was growing up or when my children were little, because we don't want to risk having anything in the bed that could obstruct breathing. They say that more SIDS cases happen in the winter because parents put on too many blankets, so they make little sleep sacks so the babies stay covered, but it's not a loose blanket in the bed. And since 1992, there has been a incident decrease of SIDS by 1/2, just by the Back to Sleep campaign. So that's a very good thing that we can figure these things out. Unfortunately, it still happens, but if we can lessen them, then that's an excellent thing. Your book talks about temperament. You're going to read a little bit about Thomas and Chess, and as any book, it can't cover everything well, and your book does an amazing job. I can't believe the amount of material that they cover in these chapters, as you well know by the tests and all the reading that you do and the varied assignments. But one thing I wished it would have done a little bit better was talk about the Thomas Chess temperaments. They are easy, slow to warm, and difficult. So children will either be born with an easy temperament, in other words, they just are a very happy baby, very positive, have good sleep cycles, just don't seem to have many difficulties at all. On the opposite spectrum, there's the difficult babies, those that have a very negative mood, cry all the time. Of course, there may be some reasons they cry. It may be colic. But if it's just their temperament, they just have a more negative mood than an easy baby. And then slow to warm. Those are babies that come around, but it takes them a little bit. They may become difficult at first, but eventually become easier. My oldest grandson, who's 3, you'll get to meet him most likely in the next chapter. He, when his 2nd birthday came around, his parents had a little bounce house they had for the neighborhood kids, and Hudson, he would not go in. He just would not. He was happy to sit on the outside. He just wasn't willing to risk getting in that bounce house. And so we tried to encourage and tried to encourage. It wasn't until I got in the bounce house that he came in and sat beside me, and pretty soon then he was jumping with the rest of the kids. And now his 3rd birthday, they had the bounce house again, and boy, he was the first one in. So I would call him a little bit slow to warm up. We've seen that in other things. He may not just jump in with both feet, but eventually he gets there. Child's temperament does influence the way that a parent or other adults treat them. And so there's a concept called goodness of fit. How does the parent help the child with the temperament they have? Of course, the best case scenario would be an easy parent with an easy child. Boy, that's a win-win situation. But if you get a difficult child with a difficult parent, then it's like button heads, even as infants. So for a child who's difficult or slow to warm, it takes a very patient parent to work with them well. Ultimately, the parent is responsible, and so they've got to have a goodness of fit, so the child will have an easier pattern. And we see that temperament does either stay with the child for life, or it can change. And I think that depends on the environment, the experiences that the parent gives them, how well that goodness of fit is to take a difficult child and turning them around into an easier adult. In this chapter, you're also going to learn about the nervous system, motor skills, perception, more on senses, self-concept, and then the last is the theory of mind. And this is the connection between thoughts, belief, intentions, and behavior. There's a mind tap activity that you're going to get to do that has information on children with autism. So when you read that part in the book, please read that carefully. So there's a lot to look forward to in this chapter. I hope you have a good experience with the information.